Thank you for being willing to spend some time me interviewing you today. I'm really excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brief introduction. I got all of this off of your LinkedIn, so if I am missing anything, please let me know.
All
So,
right, I'll fill you
so you're an experienced independent contractor who has worked in the mechanical and industrial engineering industry, which is crazy.
in.
You were and are still a part of the first robotics program. You are a software developer, a web developer, and the CTO and founder of your own company, all at 21 years old.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
22. I'm actually 22.
You're 22?
Yeah.
Your birthday.
December, back in December.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I missed that.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. That's okay.
22. I mean, still, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really unheard of for a 22-year-old. So let's just dive right into it. What were you like as a child? What were your interests, your hobbies, friend groups?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess where all this sort of started was like as a child, my mom actually she ran her own business called U.S. Journal, which focused a lot on international education and sort of student recruitment. And that was all online based. So it was sort of the first time that that sort of the work that she was doing and student recruitment was actually entering like the online sphere.
Hmm.
So she had a whole bunch of clients, and she essentially did advertising for them on her own website. And that was really interesting to me. I was very interested in the fact that the internet was still sort of blooming, and she was showing me a whole bunch of how she wrote in the code and how she changed different aspects on the website. That
Hmm.
was really interesting to me. I remember one vivid memory where the in Dreamweaver, so very popular, sort of internet development tool. Um, there were two different types of ways to show the information. There was a design tool where you could actually see like what the web page looks like, and then there's the HTML tool where you have to go into the code and you have to like actually change things. And I
Hmm.
could never do the HTML code, but that's what my mom always preferred. So
Right.
I was always like, what? How can you read this? How can you do this? So, I was always sort of jealous of her ability to be able to visualize, like, okay, if I'm going to change this element, it's going to appear this way without even looking at the design tool.
Yeah.
So, I sort of dove in, and that's really where I started to, get into software development. And obviously, HTML is not really software development, but that's where, my love of doing that sort of stuff really began. Um, Regarding sort of the other things that I was really interested to when I was younger, robotics was a huge part of my life, and again I can thank my mom for that because she introduced me to the first program when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Started building, started drawing pictures and then building with Legos and then building with metal, and then fully before I fully started QTI, I was you know the robotic systems lead developer for a robotics company based in Ithaca, New York.
Hmm.
So again, that progression and just the passion that was really I just sort of found through the first organization and also through a very supportive group around me to be able to support me, like not going to college and stuff like that.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
That's incredible. It's always really helpful to have that supportive system around you. Uh,
absolutely, yeah.
I guess you answered my next question. Who are your biggest influences as a child?
Oh yeah, definitely my mom. She has always been extremely supportive and always just, there, whether it be for business, emotional support, or just someone to talk to, as just a friend, really.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so, she's definitely, one of my, biggest inspirations, and I really, look up to her. Obviously, my dad too. He has a lot of really good insight when it comes to business.
Hmm.
And one of my favorite things that we have as far as our relationship is we almost never fully agree with each other. So, and that might sort of be an interesting thing where it's like, oh well, why, if you don't always agree with someone, sometimes it's not always good to, constantly be talking with them. But every single time, we have to make a big business decision, or, there's a big decision in my life, even though I almost know that my dad will, have something where, a critique or something like that, I always make sure to introduce him and have him part of the conversation, because I think it's so important to hear, the other side. And, at the end of the day, he is someone who just wants to see the best for, the entire family. So
Right.
being able him as a part of the conversation is really important.
That's great. I'm glad that both of your parents are involved. That makes things a little bit easier.
It's nice. It's great.
Yeah,
And that's a good thing that my dad always says, is he likes to keep things within the family, where it's, as long as it's a business, and as long as, we continue to grow, as long as we support each other, it's just going to grow the family, and everybody's going to succeed.
that's great. Can you recall a specific moment or event that set you on the path to where you are right now?
Yeah, actually, yes. They're going to be talking a lot about my parents this time. A very, very key moment that I remember was, I think it was either right before COVID hit or right after COVID hit. But regardless, I had submitted all my college applications, and things honestly were not going the way that any of us anticipated it to. Where I was getting rejected from even my safety school. So even my safety school was like, "Hey, we're not going to have you." So that was sort of, a big blow to me, personally. And that was a very, very hard time for me to sort of get through, where it's like, man, I just spent the last 4 years taking the most rigorous courses in high school, and now my safety school won't even take me. So I was really worried. But the moment that it sort of all clicked for me was, there was a whole bunch of things that I was considering: taking a gap year, trying to retake some of my exams, going into the workforce, a whole bunch of different things going, and nothing was really clear to me. And it was difficult to choose, because that's a lot of pressure,
Yeah,
that this
absolutely.
can set you off. But I remember vividly that I had a conversation with my mom in sort of the laundry room we had, and she brought up taking a gap year. And that was something where I was worried to bring that up, just because,
Right.
that it's a lot of pressure when, you're taking the most rigorous classes, and you already submitted all the college applications, and you already spent a lot of money and a lot of time on trips and all this stuff visiting college. But the fact that my mom sort of brought that up to me, it made it seem like, well, okay, this is going to be okay. She's sort of she's
Yeah.
also leaning towards this direction. And once that happened, it was sort of like a no look back, like, okay, this is what we're going to do. That set me on the path where it's I'm gonna divert from college, at least for a little bit,
Mhm.
focus more on my personal endeavors, and focus on getting work experience at the robotics company, and then also focus on fostering QTI to
Yeah.
where it is now. So that was a very core moment
Yeah.
for me.
That's really interesting because I went through almost the exact same process when I
Yeah.
graduated high school. I was originally going to go to art school, realized that was just not the right choice. The school I was going to go to, none of my credits would transfer. So
Yeah.
if I didn't want to do it anymore, that sucks. I just wasted
Yeah.
all that money. So I did decide to take a gap year as well. And it was probably one of the best decisions I could have made for myself,
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
I would not be where I am today. And clearly it's the same for you. So
Exactly.
it
Sometimes
takes
just
the
taking
gap
a
years.
pause.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes just taking a pause, and taking a beat before
Yeah.
you make a very big decision will be very worth it in the end.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So you are still a part of the first robotics team. You started 9 years ago. So you would have been, I think, 12.
Yeah, maybe even earlier. I don't remember exactly like what year I started. I just wrote like it was a while ago. I
I
think I
got
was 8 or 9.
Okay, I gotcha. I'll be honest, when I read this, I was like, he was a part of the very first robotics team. Like, that's crazy. The very first one ever. And then I was talking to my boyfriend, and he was like, oh, my school had a first robotics team. And I'm like, oh, is it like an organization?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, wow. But like that's still like super
Yeah.
cool. Can you describe your experience with them thus far?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I started. There's So first is an organization that, fosters STEM and, sort of like, all that stuff. And it really encourages, interacting with each other. Gracious professionalism is their tagline, where they can go out and they can essentially, you can collaborate with your teams and collaborate with other teams, obviously internal to your teams, but also collaborate with STEM professionals in the industry, be able to, get a whole bunch of experience and build, robots that compete at different levels. So I started with Junior FLL, which is, one of the earliest programs. And that was essentially, like drawing pictures, doing like prototypes, building out of Legos, like different, scenes and everything like that. Then it was FLL, which was now, okay, now you're actually building with a robot, you're programming with a robot. And that was really where I was like, okay, this is very interesting. I really love this. And then FTC, that's the next level up. So instead of building with Legos, now you're building essentially microwave sized robots that are competing with each other and against each other in order to complete challenges in game. And that essentially has been where, I've spent a lot of my days for the last probably 8 years, ever since I started that in 2016. I was on the team from my freshman year to my senior year of high school. During that time, we were able to, do a whole bunch of really, really cool stuff with the robot, do a lot of different, software development stuff. And then we also were able to make it to Worlds for the first time in the team's history.
Wow.
So we went to Worlds in 2019. That was really, really fun, a really great experience for me and the rest of the team. And then, since then, since I'm sticking around sort of the area, since I'm not going to college, I've been helping with mentoring and sort of just being there to support the FTC robotics team. So the team's 5356 Team TARDIS. And recently they competed at the Utica Championship, so the Excelsior Regional Championship, and they have made it to Worlds for the second time in the
Oh
team's
my
history.
God.
Yeah, so we're really, really excited about that. They're going to be going to Houston in April. So they're going to be competing against, I think it's like 200 something other teams. But I'm so excited for them. I think that, it's a sort of a accumulation of a lot of really hard work. And, I'm really glad that they get to go to Worlds again.
Yeah, that's incredible. So for like the competitions and everything, like are there robots just competing against other schools and then do they just level up and like
Yeah, so it's sort of like, okay, so for FTC, I think that the age range is from middle school to high school. And the essentially how the game is played is the game's released in September, and then there's competitions up until April where there's the World Championship. And essentially what you have to do is you have to build a robot. There's stipulations like the size constraints. And how the game is played is there are 4 robots on the field, 2 per alliance. So you're partnered with somebody, and then you're also going against 2 other robots. And you play those matches. Whoever wins the match, you get a certain number of points. And then at the end of the competition, there's sort of there's qualification matches at the start of the day, and then there's elimination matches at the end of the day. And the robots just essentially continue to compete until you can crown, the robot champion. But then there's also, holistic sort of awards that come through at the end, like, the Inspire Award for the overall best team. There's the Connect Award for, which team connects best with their local STEM community. There's like the Motivate Award, which is essentially like which team gets excited about FIRST the most, and supports FIRST in their local community the most. So there's a whole bunch of different awards. So, when you go to a competition, it's not just about the robot, it's sort of about everything.
that's great. Yeah. Let's see. Can you tell us some more about your internships? I think it was at Southern Tier PC and then Corning Incorporated.
Yeah, so Southern Tier PC, that one was pretty short. We essentially were able to, that was like the first work experience that I ever had, where essentially I was just helping out at a computer repair shop. It wasn't, super engaging, but, again, it was like I'm in a work environment. So that was the first time that, I sort of had to, dedicate time to be able to go into work. communicate with my boss about hours and stuff like that. So that was like the first real work experience that I ever had. And then Corning Incorporated, I also had an internship. I was sponsored through the robotics program that I was a part of. And that was, again, really fun, just because that was more of a taste of like, okay, this is what sort of corporate, like 9 to 5, like standard sort of a work schedule looks like. So with the Southern Tier PC, it was sort of like, okay, come in when you can. But with, the Corning internship, it was a 6-week internship where you were expected to arrive at 9, leave at 5, log your hours, talk with your supervisor, talk with your, fellow interns, and, really create some really, really cool technology in order to support Corning Incorporated.
That's great. Do you feel like everything that you learned at both of those internships has carried over into QTI AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was time management. I think that was a big thing that I took away from both internships. Something else that I took away from specifically the Corning internship was actually how much I did not like that form of work, and that's just as important as figuring out something that you do like.
Yeah.
So that again sort of pushed me towards okay, I don't want to take a traditional path like before the Corning internship. I would say, I want to go to college for computer science, and I want to be a software developer. But after the Corning internship, I realized I cannot sit down and stare at a screen for 8 hours a day, no matter what. And that was a 6-week internship, and I was tired by the end of it.
Yeah.
So I could not imagine that being a career. However, even just being able to do a little bit of software development. That's why I think I love robotics so much, because it's a combination of I get to sit down, I get to do software development, get to code, and then also I have mechanical stuff where I can go and have a screwdriver and work on some stuff, 3D print some stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of different spots, which is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on from internships, you worked at International Climbing Machines, ICM, for 4 years, and you recently left February of this year. What were your biggest takeaways from your lead developer position there?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot. Again, it was crazy to sort of start that position, because I could go in and I could say, hey, like I have 8 to 10 years of robotics experience, even though that's technically like not work experience. But thanks to the first program, I was able to say that I was doing robotics at some when I was super young. But again, the biggest thing that I've been able to take away from that is work experience, being able to essentially like point to things and say, hey, like this is how this industry works. Learn about the robotics industry, learn about the major players, travel a lot. I was able to go internationally in order to support the robotics projects that ICM works with and helps out with. I was able to go more, nationally. So, a lot of trips to Texas. I was in Kansas. And again, just, really go to, an industrial site.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't realize how crazy those industrial sites are until you're actually, in the what do you call it? The coveralls. And you're walking around in Kansas in 100-degree weather, and yeah, I definitely got a lot more respect and a lot more sort of awareness of this is industry, this
Oh
is what
yeah.
it looks like. And it was super cool to be able to see the robots interact with the different the tools and the machines there in order to inspect them and to support their work, like a tiny little cog in this massive machine. And it's good to be a part of that. Thought that was really fun.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. All right. So QTI AI, for those
Yeah,
who may have no idea what
your
this means.
elevator pitch, we're elevator pitching it.
Yes, absolutely. Can you give
Yeah,
us a brief rundown of this amazing company that you've developed?
QTI, yes. So Qti.ai is a company focused on brand protection, specifically for small businesses. We do, brand protection for all size businesses, but the company started with a focus on small businesses. And throughout the history, the I guess 4-year history of QTI, we really wanted to focus on two things. One is helping small businesses, and the second is protecting consumers. So where we're at right now is we essentially go out and we outsource counterfeit detection and documentation and removals from small businesses. So if you're a small business, you have a 6-person team, you're getting hit hard by counterfeiting, you don't want to take one of your very, very valuable employees and dedicate them to searching through Amazon, searching through AliExpress, searching through the Chinese marketplaces, trying to sift through, thousands of listings, trying to find counterfeits. And not only when you find them, you want to document them, you want to remove them, and then you also want to check in and make sure that they're staying down. So what QTI does is we essentially take that process and we have automated it to the best of our ability in order to keep costs down, in order to make it sort of as fast as possible. That's our primary focus. Where we're going now and where we're sort of pivoting to is newer stuff. So like, for example, copyright registrations. We want to make sure that small businesses have intellectual property protection, because a lot of small businesses don't even know the best place to start, and whether they need copyright protection or patent protection or trademark protection or trade dress protection. What type of patent in case they need a patent. So, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for these small businesses to get the intellectual property that they need, and also to enforce that intellectual property. Because a lot of companies that we work with, they already have trademarks, they already have copyright and patents. But being able to enforce that in a meaningful way is really, really important. And, it's something where they can't do it with the current infrastructure that they have. So we have the infrastructure that's built. So that's our value proposition.
Amazing. Yeah. Can you walk me through the thought process of what made you want to start QTI? And has the main focus always been on brand protection, or did you ever consider something else?
Yeah, so I'll go through. It's sort of a complicated, twisty, windy road of how we got here. But I had always been, I had that entrepreneur bug in me for a really long time. And then that sort of meshed with the web development side of things. So, for the longest time, like something that I wanted to start was I think the very earliest thing was a tool called Quodu, where you get to share quotes and you just get to it's like a social media for quotes. Which, looking back on that, wow, what a terrible idea. But that was something that, I got to dedicate, 8 hours a day, while I was in high school, just coding and doing software development, managing databases and stuff like that. And that was fun. But, that didn't pan out. And, I had a couple other ones, but then eventually it got to the sort of idea of a link shortener. Okay, link shorteners exist. There are massive problems with link shorteners as far as security concerns, spoofing, URL spoofing, and also, just having link shorteners that are smart and being able to track the statistics that you need in a meaningful way. So that's why QTI is so short, because it originally was a link shortener. The original name was Qti.io. And I was looking at that for a long time. Very, very, very early prototypes of the website and what it looked like had the Qti.io sort of logo. And, it was something that I was I'm still in high school. I'm taking rigorous classes. This is an idea, but I'm not going to actually pursue this. Till one day I checked in on it and someone took the domain. Someone took the Qti.io domain. Parked it, so I could have got it for $20, but now they're selling it for $5,000. I'm great. Someone took this crazy idea that I had, so I guess now I have to make something else. So I changed it to Qti.ai because, again, I wanted to keep it short and AI, it's a buzzword. We can, sure, let's do it. So I think that day, the day after I realized that the other domain was taken, I registered the Qti.ai domain because, again, I wanted to keep that. I wanted to make sure that was locked in.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for, probably the first year of its existence was a link shortener. And the value proposition for that was okay, if scammers try and use this link shortener, we're going to be able to detect the scam before they send out, a phishing URL or a phishing email, so that when consumers click on the link, we're going to block them from being able to go through the link. Which again, I think that exact situation happened a couple times, where it was like, okay, we scammers use the service, it got spoofed, or the URL got spoofed, and we were able to protect the consumers. But that's not that wasn't scalable. Like, okay, what do the scammers do? They just go and use another service, one that's less protected. So that was it. It was good, and again, it got me sort of thinking about it. And the really important part of that entire experience was being able to sort of do web scraping to a certain extent, like very, very fast and quick web scraping, in order to determine the legitimacy of a website. So the idea was, you create a link, and as soon as you create that link, we're doing searches in order to see whether that site is legit or not, so that we can change the value of the threat level, I guess. And if the threat level is too high, we would block that from consumers. That one of the largest indicators for whether a website was legitimate or not was based on the content of the website. So a lot of people may think, hosting, if it's hosted in China, that may be dangerous, which is true. But, we really wanted to do more of a content-based analysis. And we ran into a whole bunch of e-commerce websites. We realized that a lot of these images were stolen. We reached out to the original owners of the image. We reached out to a lot of communities, talking about this problem, and it was sort of the puzzle piece that everyone was missing was, we need a tool in order to combat this infringement online, and the rest is history.
Wow. I did not know a lot of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's like I said, it's complicated, a lot of pivoting, but we were finally able to essentially create a product that was valuable to a lot of people.
Hmm. So the AI portion of Qti.ai, did that start off just because IO was taken? Like, did you ever was AI ever something that you already planned to use in Qti.ai?
Yeah, so AI was, that has always been just a huge fascination for me, as far as, fully understanding how it works at a fundamental level, and then trying to use it to, do pattern recognition, and, sort of the very, very basic, like nothing like ChatGPT, but, just being able to say, okay, given this training data, can you then take attributes from that training data, essentially learn using calculus, what are the common attributes for that training data, and then ignore the training data and be introduced to new data, be able to be successful with that. And that's where a lot of it was, very early on, it was text-based indicators and being able to find patterns within words. And then it moved on to image-based stuff, where it was, okay, how can we find particular image or particular sort of, I don't know, attributes within images that indicate that, okay, this might be an infringement of a particular brand. Being able to go through that, that's really where the AI comes in. And it simplifies things so that we don't have to be searching through every single image. A lot of it is already pre-sorted, it's pre-tagged. All we have to do is just monitor the AI to make sure that it's doing things correctly, and then also create more training data for it, so that the more the scammers scam, the better it gets at detecting it, which is it sort of levels the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some misconceptions that you think people have about AI?
I think the biggest one in the particularly the communities that we work with, a lot of them are artists, and I think a lot of people see the AI as AI is a tool, just as a firearm may be a tool, and that tool could be used for good and it can be used for bad. And a lot of things in the AI space right now are talking about, and specifically in the artist space, is talking about how bad AI is for them, and that's completely understandable because it really can be very dangerous when companies are using copyrighted material and protected material in order to train their models. However, the biggest thing is AI can also be used for good, specifically when trying to identify patterns and identify where your content is being used. Also, the likelihood that this is an infringing website, or this is infringing material, which you can sort of go and enforce and protect and possibly financially gain from essentially going after that infringement. So again, AI is a tool, and it can be used for bad, but it could also be used for good.
Yeah, thank you for elaborating on that because I do
Oh yeah,
think it has like a bad rap right now. And it
yeah, and
does
it's
have,
sort of well deserved.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But there are some good things that can come of it, clearly.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's see. What words of advice do you have for anybody whose work has been infringed?
I think that the main thing that you need to do when you realize that your work has been infringed is, first of all, figure out the scope. A lot of people, unfortunately, they may see a Facebook ad that infringes on their work, and then next thing it's not just that Facebook ad. Unfortunately, it's hundreds of Facebook ads, and then those hundreds of Facebook ads are connected to hundreds of destination websites, which also infringe your work. And then not only those destination sites, but they have to source it from somewhere. So now Chinese websites like AliExpress, Alibaba, DHgate, now they have your work infringed. So being able to determine the scope of the infringement is really important, and that also determines how you want to approach sort of combating it. If it's someone that, if it's one post, it could be very easy to go after and either serve them with a cease and desist, or sort of communicate with them non-legally in order to request the information to come down and to enforce your intellectual property. But in a case where there's thousands of infringements, it doesn't make sense for an individual to sort of go out and do all that work. Might make more sense for a scraper or another bot that's built for good in order to go out and collect that information and make sure that that is documented, well documented, and well kept.
Mm.
But and then obviously the next thing is protect your intellectual property as soon as you can. It will not hurt. In many cases, it's inexpensive, and it boosts the value of your company if you have intellectual property protection. So even if you don't want to enforce it, maybe from a selfish perspective from your company, having intellectual property boost the value of your company just by being able to say, hey, we have a patent, we have a trademark, we have copyright on all this stuff. So in the case where things do start to go wrong, not only can we enforce it, but we can also claim monetary damages for that infringement.
Amazing. Awesome. Let's see. You have a younger brother, Alex.
Yeah, Alex. Yeah.
You ever feel the pressure of being the older brother to be an example for him?
Not really, actually. That's a really good question. Alex and I are both very, very independent, and we're going, and we both have, I think, very different paths in life. And I don't get to see him very often, but for example, we just went on a trip, and it was great to be able to spend time and sort of bond with him and stuff like that. But the one thing that I do think is really important between us and that we have a good dynamic is that we both have very, very different ideas of our future, and how we're going to contribute to sort of the world as a whole, I guess. But I think that Alex is extremely well positioned, and I love talking to him and discussing strategies and discussing obviously where we're both at in life. But I don't really feel any pressure to sort of tell him what to do or to guide him, because I think he's in it. He's doing very, very well on his own.
Good, good. That alleviates, yeah, alleviates some pressure on you. So that's
Yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah.
Before we say our goodbyes, looking
Mhm.
ahead, what excites you most about the future of QTI AI? What opportunities do you see on the horizon? And can you tell us a little bit about QTI AI robotics?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what excites me the most is just the continued growth. I probably remember a lot from our meetings where it's like keeping the momentum and being able to like just you never want to slow down. And I think that there are months where we may not get as many clients as we were targeting, or we might not get as many followers as our projections are. But no matter what, the total trajectory of the business is up. And I think that it speaks to a lot of things. One of them being the fact that this is a real problem. This problem, unfortunately, is going to continue for a long time, and more people are experiencing this problem, and there needs to be a solution for it. Um, Part of that is the excitement for being able to grow the team and get, for example, we want to be processing millions of images per day instead of hundreds of thousands, or we want to be getting X amount of takedowns per day, and have a team behind each takedown, essentially keeping these platforms in check, making sure that when we submit a takedown, enforcing that and making sure that that is down within a reasonable amount of time. And being able to have specific people focused in on that, I think will again boost the value of the company, and our value proposition to small businesses, because it's super important to get that stuff down as fast as possible. Um, the so QTI Robotics is again, it's at this point sort of a consulting company where I just get to continue doing what I love. Which is robotics in this case. And again, it gives me a break from software development. So QTI is great. I love it. Brand protection is awesome. But again, it's a lot of software development. There's not a lot of hardware behind that. And the most important part when especially being an entrepreneur, and the biggest fear is burnout. So being able to have something where I can go and tinker with a robot, and then do some software for that, and then do some software for QTI. It's a good balance, and it protects myself from burning out, and it also makes me continuously feel productive, so I can continue to work on sort of whatever, whether it be software development or hardware development.
That's great. Yeah, it's really impressive that you were able to develop that and you already have like a small team already working with the
It's,
robotics company. So
yeah, no, it's
that's
great.
great.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much
No,
for
thank you.
time
Yeah.
answering these burning questions that I'm sure a lot of people have.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think this is good.